Here we go, here we go. Second time lucky. So, here we are, Monday Market Review. So, second time lucky, should be all good this time. So let's go and have a little look at this. I'm going to be doing a couple of training videos this week because we've just finished a room session. And one of the things that we were covering was the scenarios that we're seeing here on the Dow, the S&P, compared to some of the other indices relative to the trades that we have actually placed. So I've got a really interesting training video coming up for you this week. Let's get into it now, though. Let's go and have a little look at what has been happening. And I'm going to take you up to this weekly chart that we've been looking at with the S&P and the Dow, because what we had going into the middle of last week was this move down. You can see it represented by the lows here on last week's weekly candle on the S&P, and if I look at the Dow, similar scenario. So if I now go to the daily chart, you'll be able to see that we sneaked those lows. We've got a lovely little bounce on the futures here off the daily 200 moving average. The S&P, you can see, is a bit of a distance away from its daily 200, but both of these gave us these lows. Then we had the bounce. So I think there's something really interesting going on here. Is we've been looking for this weekly close below the 21 moving average, and as yet we haven't had it. So we've had 2 weeks now where we've come into the 21 moving average here on the S&P, bounce back up, come down again, gone that little bit lower, but closed bang on the 21. The Dow, however, the Dow has had those closes below. So as yet, only one of the markets has done that. So for me, I'm really looking to see what happens this week with the S&P and whether we get that close below the 21. Maybe we will get another low. Maybe we're just going to sit a little bit sideways. As yet, we don't know. But for me, I'm going to be really watching to see if we get that close. So this is what I'm looking out for here, is this close below the 21, putting more and more pressure. And if we get that, then with the S&P, it will definitely be that I'll be looking for a retest of these lows and a move down to this weekly 50 moving average that you can see in here. Now, with comparison to the Dow, that's got that room as well. It's a little bit closer, that weekly 50, but that's what I'm looking for there. So really just to see if the S&P will follow the Dow and give us a close below that 21. Now that isn't a guarantee. Before we start thinking, why are you so obsessed with that? Why is that you're looking for? What is it specifically about that? Well, it's because the market has done it in the past. Look, we had a close below here, had a bounce. If I go back to the S&P, we had a little close below, then a bounce. It doesn't mean that if I get that close below on both markets, I'm going to suddenly short those markets, but it is out of character of what we've seen in this upward trend. We've seen price get close to that. If we get that, and then we can start to see the lows broken, which we didn't get back here on the S&P, that's when I'll look for a move down here. And then intraday wise, so moving down to the daily chart as a minimum, but going lower and looking at the hourly and the 4 hourly, we've then got that little bit of clean air down to the next set of lows. So we're putting pressure on these lows. If we close below, then there could be some opportunities in there for a trade. We are actually short on one of the major indices at the moment. We're short on the France 40, and we've just missed our target at the moment. Now that may come this week, but this is what I'm going to talk about in a video this week about discipline and how you're not always rewarded short term for being disciplined. But I'll come to that. That'll probably be Wednesday or Friday this week. So what else is occurring? Let's go and quickly look at the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq, again, same here with the Nasdaq, hasn't had that clear close below its weekly 21. You can see we've tested it, reacted to it, tested it, reacted to it, tested it. Haven't had a strong move back up, but again, as I've said, really keen to see if this week's one not only gives us a close below, but if we can get below the previous week's lows, then again, I'll be looking towards that weekly 50 for the bounce. So again, I'm not massively short, not massively bearish in any shape or form, just bearing that pattern in mind and looking to see what the price action does there. Let's go and have a look at oil. So our monthly oil trade, we're sitting right up near these highs here. So you can see this double top that's formed right up at the 2018 highs. So at the moment, we're not quite in at that resistance. We're just shy of it here on the Tuesday of last week, and as you can see, we're very, very close. So for me, if we do get into that area just there, then we may get some short opportunities off the back of that. The longer term trend lines there, I'm actually going to dip down to the 4-hour chart because this is a little bit more of what we would do in our trading room, because you can see we've got a slightly more aggressive 4-hour trend line, which could give us some shorting opportunities if we get a good solid reaction up at these highs. If we get there, there could be a nice bit of divergence coming into that high, so we could get some intraday short opportunities. If price goes higher and we break these levels and we push on up, then I would need a good solid high off the back of this. So I'd need a good move above this before I would consider any long setups. Obviously, we've got our monthly setup at the moment, and that's actually triggered as long. And that's the challenge when you're trading something mechanical. And again, I'm going to do a little bit of training on that as well for you guys. When you're trading something that is purely mechanical, where it's the same rigorous setup month in, month out, and you don't apply any discretion in terms of support and resistance levels, that can be quite tough. So for me, really going long right here from a discretion and strategy point of view, I wouldn't be doing that. But because the mechanical setup has put us long, we have to take the setup at the same time in the same way. So that essentially is the challenge there. But we'll see how that plays out. So for me, potential reversals up here, and that's where, for me as a technical trader, both as a mechanical trader and a strategy and discretionary trader, I could be looking at a market and have one trade that's long, one trade that's short, depending on the setups that are there. But we'll see how that all plays out. We could easily be sent back in the other direction and could be short on both these scenarios. It's all going to depend on how price reacts to this level, if it makes it up there, or whether we decide to turn that a little bit sooner. So yeah, oil at critical levels there. We'll see how that plays out. Not a lot to say about gold and silver at the moment. Again, sitting fairly sideways here. You can see there's gold hovering around that daily 21. Hasn't really made any clear lows. We had that big spike that you can see there back there. If I just go and have a look at silver, silver is sitting at what we would call mid-level support and resistance. If I go up to the weekly, you can see there is a little bit of support that you can see in there. For a lot of my guys, they would be looking for a break of the trend line. Same here. I would consider some long setups if we got a break of the trend line, but I'm not trading long off of this support because it is not extended enough. It's too mid-level for me. So for me, silver in terms of momentum, if we go lower here and get below these lows, then we've got a nice batch of clean air down to the weekly 200. I might as well just show you that so you can see it. I'm just going to go to the weekly chart there. So we've got a nice bit of clean air down to here with some highs just there. So we've got a little gap that if price wants to go lower, then we've got some good short opportunities in that little gap of clean air in there. Well, again, we'll see whether or not price wants to do that. So it could be some short opportunities on silver. I'm going to actually go to US dollar Swiss franc because we've got a potential long trade here. Same idea. We've got this small window of clean air between where this current high is that you can see on the weekly chart and where this next high is. So that's our little window of clean air. So price at the moment, if I go down to the daily, and you'll see that clean air in a little bit more detail. If I go to the daily chart, you can see we've made a new high. So we're looking for a pullback here down towards that 21 because there's our clean air. So we're looking for a pullback here, and then we're looking for a specific set of criteria. If that does occur, then we will be long US dollar Swiss franc. And then where we get out will depend on those criteria and what the candles do. But we could have a long opportunity there. In the opposite, essentially is the opposite scenario here with euro. So if we look at euro, euro is sitting down at previous lows. If euro was to go lower here and get below here, so a little bit like silver, if it was to go that little bit lower, then we could be looking for some momentum shorts. We just need to be aware there's a bit of a choppy area just here, but again, there's a bit of, well, not a bit, there is clean air between here and here, so we could be looking at some shorts there. So at the moment, a lot of these markets just hovering around levels. You can see here with euro, like you said, there's those previous lows. It's flat, but there is the weekly 200, which it reacted to last week. So a lot of these markets, we just need to see a little bit more movement this week, and then that would open up trade opportunities. But at the moment, some of them are just that little bit too close to levels that I wouldn't necessarily trade counter trend setups, but need to break that little bit lower, that little bit higher for momentum-based trades. Oil, however, if we get up to those highs, that would offer counter trend trades. So that's it really this week in terms of markets. I think for me, as I've said, the main thing that I would be keeping my eye on is what these weekly charts do by the end of the week on the Dow and S&P. Are we going to get a rebound, or are we going to get a close on this S&P below its weekly 21, and the same with the Nasdaq? Are we going to get a close below that weekly 21? So I'll be back in touch again next week. I hope that was useful. And yeah, just to let you know, our Kickstart is almost full. So we've got a 28-day training coming up starting 13th of October. If you're not a member, you will need to be a member of TSC. So go to Trader Support Club, sign up as a free member. Just click any of the Start Right Now buttons. And we've got a couple of spaces left. I only work with 25 people for 28 days. So we keep the numbers very small so I can work very closely with you. So even if you're a beginner, never traded before, it's the perfect starting point. If you've traded before, you're not getting the results you want, then this will show you exactly how to piece together all of the different ways that we approach the market. So very specifically looking at strategy, looking at strategy and discretion, looking at data, looking at risk management and mindset. How do we piece all of these together? So I said I work closely with you for 28 days. And if you go and join up as a free member, all of the details are on the membership area. All right. So I'm going to be back in touch a couple of times this week because I want to do a little bit of training on discipline, because there's some great stuff that's come out of the room this week. And then I'll be back next Monday to see where these major indices are and if we've got away from some of these levels on some of the other markets. Have a good week, guys. I'll be back in touch again soon.